Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Now enjoy the Practical Guitarist podcast.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, David.
This is the first time we've done the show before like 9 p.m. in like a long ass time.
Well, it's after 9 p.m. for me. It's
after 9 p.m. for you, right? But it's still an hour earlier. Usually recorded 10 to midnight or something crazy like that.
Yeah. I'm usually up pretty darn late, and I still haven't done my taxes.
But technically,
I'm just telling you, I know I'm going to owe a lot in taxes.
But technically, we're late, Jim. Technically, we're late because we were supposed to record last night.
Yeah, normally we would record by now.
Oh man,
I have so much to say.
I have a lot of new stuff to share too.
Yeah.
Not
okay.
new purchases or anything.
Here to talk about.
I do too.
Yeah.
My Fillmore came in.
Yeah.
And that thing is gorgeous. I got it in the it's either Bronco. I forget I think it's Wine Taurus. Because they have Bronco as well, and it's like a more textured thing, but I wanted the smoother one. And it's got the cream grill and matching handles, corners, and piping. It's a nice looking amp. I got to trial by fire it at an open jam the other night, which was
how'd that go?
It was pretty fun actually. And the amp just roared. But that whole open jam we'll talk about a little bit. It was like a Practical Guitarist podcast listener reunion. Paul Pickley was there. Mike Merrow was there.
Nice.
Jeff was there in spirit, and actually Nick Bongers came through as well. So he came in and he dropped off a guitar for Jeff, and he dropped off pickups for me, which means that P90s will be going out to show listeners soon.
Cool.
As soon as I can get them installed, basically. We'll start the contest going probably either this week or maybe next week, and it might possibly get passed to the following week. By the time this comes out, though, I think we'll be ready to rock and roll pretty quick, because this episode will come out in 2 weeks from today. Today is 5/10, so but that said, the open jam we'll talk about later. I did the gig this weekend though, and that's the one I want to talk about for a minute. So I played lead acoustic guitar for 4 hours on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. to noon, 8 a.m. to noon-ish, and that was brutal. It was brutal. It was cold. It was like 45 to 50 degrees outdoors. No electricity. So all of the emoting was coming from my fingers. We had actually, got it sitting here. I bought this guy, which is a Behringer battery powered. Here's the battery powered PA. And I was like, this is going to be a joke. This is going to be crappier than a Fender Passport. That thing is like a battery powered Head Rush. Like, it's very similar in quality to an Alto 8-inch speaker with a tweeter. And it was not ideal. I had no compression or anything like that. But to be honest with you, totally got the job done. I'm a good enough player I can get away without compression. And really, even I would still feel more comfortable with it. But things sounded pretty good most of the show. I'm about 80% off book with that band. So I was watching the book a little bit, but basically like just kind of cutting through things. We didn't have all our members. So to give you an idea of how this worked, it was me on acoustic. Kyle was on acoustic with his acoustic electric rig. And then we had a third guy sub in on bass for Johnny Tash, who is currently in law school. And they're all lawyers. Kyle, the lawyer, Kyle Tash. No, not Kyle. What am I saying? Bill Tash, the lawyer, right? Kyle Tash is a legal administrator. Bill Tash is a lawyer. Sitting behind me is sitting on a cajon with snare built into the cajon, and he's got a little foot pedal thing that he can hit it like a bass drum. And I mean, we were rocking that place. It was actually pretty fun because we had like such a minimalist rig, and I carried my gear like 2 blocks to this place. Carried it. Okay, I had wheels on the PA. And I put my piano bench on top of the PA, bench down, and tried to carry it over there. But I basically ended up just having to claw my hand around the leg of the thing and holding the handle on the PA and just manhandled that thing down the street. My hands still hurt from it. And actually, it's funny because when I started playing, they were doing this. Like visibly shaking like this. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm even going to play this. This is going to be nuts. It took about 25 minutes for my hands to finally settle down before we could start playing. And then once we did, like, I was okay until the end of it. And I was like, well, I actually looked at the piano bench real long and hard. I'm like, maybe I should just leave that here. Like, they're not that expensive.
Now you know why sometimes people will play with like half gloves on.
It wasn't the cold. It was just the brutality of carrying all the gear that long a distance, and like even just like dragging a roller cart that gets stuck in the cement, like it's stuck in the cracks between pavement. My hands were taking some abuse from that. In fact, I got a bruise in this hand, and it was just funny because like as I'm carrying this thing over and I'm thinking like this is going to be really, really gnarly. Like I knew this was going to be an ugly experience physically. And then so like we got through the first 2 sets, which got us about 2 hours in. And I'm like looking at my watch at that point. I'm like, how much more time we got to go on this gig? Please, and we were on so we play alphabetically through our set list, which is hilarious. But it actually works pretty well. And Kyle looks down and he says, we're on M or something. And I'm like, oh crap. Like we still got another, probably 120 minutes worth of show. And I just shook my head. But it worked out pretty well, actually. Gotta admit, like, we walked away with tips. I mean, they didn't pay us anything. So here's the other thing. I get the agreement. Kyle sends us a copy of the rules and regulations that they send everybody who plays one of these farmers markets. And I'm looking at these rules and regs, and I'm like, are you effing kidding me? They have all the language in there that you're like, come on, guys. So they're like, you're going to get paid an exposure. Yeah, I talked to you about this, Jim. Oh, it's exposure. Oh my God. It's good exposure. You might get hired for a private gig or something.
I bet you if you took your pants off, they wouldn't appreciate that exposure.
There's invaders during the podcast.
I see that.
Like, it's like they don't realize there's a podcast going on. So they're like dancing around and hurry up. Yeah. Take a bottle. Like, I'm giving water. There's plenty of places that you could have gotten water this evening. So we'll just wait until the podcast. All right. So that was the whole thing. Like, I'm reading through this agreement, and I'm like, we're not getting paid. And I have to provide equipment. There's no electricity here. It's just one thing after another through this process. And I'm like, is this for real? How is this all working? So, we did get paid. There was enough tips there to go around, actually. In fact, we miscalculated. I was like, well, they'll cover my gas money and my breakfast. But then, like, a couple hours later, I got a text message saying, I miscounted. We were off by half. I owe you, double what you were paid. And so nice. I'm waiting on the remainder, but only because I haven't provided my payment details. That's another thing. This band likes to pay with Venmo. Okay. So this is relevant to any musicians today. If you have not used Venmo, the joy that is Venmo yet, let me explain something to you. If you have a choice between using Venmo and something else, use something else, please. Holy shit!
There are a lot of venues using Venmo, so don't be surprised. I would recommend getting a Venmo account. To any musician that's out there.
So if you can, so let me explain the nightmare hell I'm going through right now. I got paid for the last gig from Venmo from our band leader, which he's like, we're all doing Venmo now. Like, just get a Venmo account. I'm like, oh yeah, it sounds simple, right? And I knew somebody else who set up a Venmo account, and they were telling me I'm having tons of problems with Venmo right now. So this is where shit gets real. So I create my Venmo account. I go to link it to my bank account.
Yeah,
that was a complete pathetic waste of time. Okay? Because, listen, they use a service called Plaid to link your account to your Venmo account to your bank account. Plaid is used by pretty much everyone now. Like Robinhood uses Plaid, I think, and then like Stash uses Plaid, and all these other banking apps that I have use Plaid to get access to your account. And here's the problem. Okay, so Plaid on Venmo, apparently they will not allow them to use a joint bank account. So if you share this bank account with anyone, you're going to fight to add that account to your Venmo profile. Now, here's the problem. How are you going to get your money out of Venmo if you
can't link your account?
Yeah. So basically, you have a Venmo account with money in it, and you have to get their stupid freaking debit card in order to get paid, which is a whole other thing because you don't get interest on Venmo if the stuff sits in the Venmo account. So this is just stupid. Like it's highway robbery is what it is, and it's a rule that they have put in place arbitrarily to take your money and to hold on to your money for you because they know there will be abandoned Venmo accounts.
That's right.
And here's the other point that really pisses me off. So you know who owns Venmo? PayPal. PayPal owns Venmo, which means you could theoretically have them tied together and get access to your money that way. But they're not going to do that. Okay. I don't think Venmo was originally owned by PayPal. I think PayPal procured them because they were a threat, but they've owned them for over a year. More than a year, I think 2 years now, and they have made no effort to marry those services together in any way, which means that you're probably just going to be screwed if you use Venmo.
Yeah, I tell people you're going to use PayPal or nothing. Don't try to Zelly me. Don't try to do all this other shit.
Yeah, I don't mind Zelle as much because I have a Chase account, so that sort of works for me. But like,
well, Zelly
I would much rather just pay me via freaking PayPal or cash or check. I don't need my money right away. It's not like I'm broke.
Right. Get it to me somehow. I just don't like Venmo. The truth of the matter is if there's any of them, that's the worst one. And a lot of places are still using it, but it's going away. I get the feeling it's just going to get shit canned.
Well, they've been talking about feature updates and stuff, which is why I'm like, oh God, don't update it. Kill it.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, whatever you do, don't feed that damn thing.
Well, and so this is the biggest problem. So Venmo, like, this is why PayPal doesn't want to marry the service to theirs because they make money off every single transaction on PayPal. They buy Venmo. There's no transaction fees.
I know.
That's why they're trying to hold your money hostage because they have to make their money somehow.
Yeah, and it's called interest.
Yeah, they've got your money invested until you withdraw it, basically.
That's right.
Like every other bank, which is why fees are just hilarious to me. Fees, my wife and I were talking about this, I believe fees were invented because they wanted to keep runs on the bank from occurring. So it would make it less likely that you would go and withdraw a bunch of money every day because...
There's a scene in The Jerk by Steve Martin where the help, the guy he hires when he gets rich.
I think I know where you're going. Yeah, I think I know where you're going.
Pretty funny. The man and the woman that he hires to be his maid and his man servant, whatever. They're two elderly people, and you see her out back, and she's tied to a tree, or she's standing next to her, and she's blindfolded, and they've got a firing squad. They shoot her. He goes, "I'm so sorry about your wife," and he sips his drink, and he goes, "Yeah, well." You know what they say about those early withdrawal? She had to pay a substantial penalty for early withdrawal.
Yeah.
And I was just like, But back then it was a lot funnier because every time that you'd see a commercial for a bank, you'd hear substantial penalties for early withdrawal. So that was why, like, I used to have a checking account and I had to have like a $1,000 floor.
Oh yeah. They used to
like,
require you to keep like $1,000 in the account. And
well, then that's not my money.
that's right.
It's your money.
That's exactly right. I believe that's why that's probably no longer a thing, is because I suspect the feds got involved in that and they were like, you can't arbitrarily have people keep money in your account like that.
Yeah.
Because that's basically
Which is
just
why
saying,
I use a credit union.
yeah, so the banks will get by with what they get by with, and they will screw people like us who are musicians, who are probably not making much off of this venture anyway.
Right.
So in my case, I just, it would have been nice. I could have used that money to buy a pedal or something.
So guess what happened to me Saturday?
Yeah, what's happened? Oh, I sort of know.
Saturday, I got a call from a friend to come out and play his gig. So I went out and he goes, "Hey, you want to play?" And I was like, I look at the guy running the thing and he goes, "Yeah, go ahead." So I did a set and so now we got hired. So we're doing city events now. We're getting hired for city events. Right out of that one little step up there and doing 12 songs off the top of my head.
Do you remember back in October when we did the raccoon birthday party, where I talked about the raccoon birthday party? We landed the festival gig for that city, actually over the weekend as well. So
yeah, see, and that's how that kind of works. You, as much as the exposure thing usually doesn't work, festivals usually do work.
Well, in this case, I don't think we landed a gig because of exposure. I think we landed the gig because we were like, hey, we're professional enough. We'll come out and do something stupid, Yeah.
And the right people saw you.
Yeah.
And
the
that's
Park
really
District people, basically. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Parks and Rec people saw me and then they were like, oh, yeah, this guy could come out and do it. So I ordered something. I'm about to send it to you via Facebook. This is the first time you're seeing that. I mean, you know what this is.
Oh, yeah. No, these are, I've actually been looking at these too. Is this the one with the, does this one do IRs? Because there's one that does IRs, and I don't think it's a Fishman product that does that. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, no. I think you're thinking of the LR bags.
Yeah, I think it's the LR.
No, Fishman has a better one.
Oh, it's the higher end one than this.
So it is super high end. Now, I say super high end. I thought about getting it. It's $380. I got a great deal, by the way, calling my friends at Sweetwater. I just want everybody to know. Always make that call. I will tell you again and again and again. This is the one. I saw this and I was like, because I knew there was a product.
Can we tell our listeners what we're talking about?
Oh yeah. So I got a Fishman preamp, and it's called the Platinum Pro.
Yeah, Platinum Pro EQ and DI analog preamp.
EQ DI analog preamp. So this thing does it all for you.
With a tuner.
Yep, with a built-in tuner. So that's important. I mean, some people don't think it is, obviously, when you hear them play.
What controls do you have on your acoustic electric right now? Do you just have like bass and treble, or?
Yeah, I just have a basic, it's literally just a tone knob. It's the lamest freaking.
Yeah, so they're expecting you to use a preamp with that.
Yeah.
Mine actually has bass and treble on it. So really what I would be looking for is like compression and reverb. Not much else.
So this has got, I'm going to bring my small pedal board. I'll put this on there with my Keeley Caverns, because this has an effects send and return.
Nice.
So I'll put my Keeley Caverns in the effects send and return, and I'm done.
Yeah.
And
unless you want to add a chorus. You do have an old Boss chorus you could throw on there.
I do. I have the old.
Now you're thinking about it. You're like, I got a CE2. Like, I could put that on there.
I could just put my CE2W, because to be honest with you, I could lose that from.
Oh, that's right. You got both of them. I forgot that you got a CE2W.
I got the Warcraft. Yeah, I've got the Warcraft.
Yeah. Oh man, you whacked tell where your head's at.
It's a healer.
Yeah.
I've got the Wazcraft one.
It's a healer.
Yeah, The other one I thought about getting, and it's still on my mind, but I don't know if I'll get it anytime soon. But I may get it. Is the Fishman Aura? Now the thing
that's
about the
one
Aura,
with the one with the modeling, the IRs
That's right.
basically.
That's got all the IRs.
Is it
So that's
is it
got your
loadable?
modeling in it.
Is it loadable? I mean, it's got
I don't
USB
know
on
if
it, so I
you-
think it is.
I would think so. It's at least got some way of doing software. It also has for that USB. It's rechargeable.
Yeah, 16 user configurable locations, 128 images for multiple instruments.
Right. So you've got
you can get other instruments from them. They're doing their own IRs. That's kind of sweet. I would
Yep.
this
And
would be
so-
what I would be looking for.
this is for folks that are thinking about getting a what's that guitar? The Acoustasonic.
Sonic, this is
This is
that in
it.
a pedal.
This is it in a pedal, guys. And guess what? You don't have to do. And
You can have
you don't have
an
to-
electric with a piezo pickup and use this.
That's right. And you have all those presets that which call it said he wanted. There they are.
Yep.
And it
Put your
even
Martins
says at
in
the
here.
bottom. Yep. It even says at the bottom AF. So it is as good as AF. That says it right there.
It's good
AF.
as never mind.
Yep. But what I love about this thing, because I watched a guy play just a regular old, I may go get, so here's what I might do. So I might, as much as I love my Gibson Hummingbird, I might go get who's it, Godin
What-
a
Yeah, one of their acoustic electrics.
super skinny one.
Buy it
And
online and get it
Yeah.
used.
Yeah, and I played a couple of them, and they're really thin. It was so light, I didn't even know I had a guitar around my neck. That's
Yeah.
how light it was.
They're
Super
really
light,
good,
super
really
light.
good. I've played many of them over the years, and actually was contemplating buying one at one point. But the best value on those is used. You can get them for like $600.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Because you can
how
get them
cheap
for
you
like
get 'em.
half price.
Yeah.
And so
well, you could before the before the COVID.
before COVID,
yeah. That's the episode that's
Yeah.
going up tomorrow, by the way.
oh boy.
I just
Um,
finished doing all the mix down this evening, so
But yeah, I was really tossed between that, the LR Bags version, and the Fishman, not the Aura, because I know the Aura does a completely different thing, and that's what I would use it for, is that different thing. Or the LR Bag, or I mean the Fishman Tone EQ. It's called the Deck, DEQ.
yeah.
And the only thing that the deck and this one cost the same. So I called Drake, my rep, and I said, look, I don't get it. I said, this guy is $319. The deck is $319. The two of them have a lot of the same features, but the deck comes with chorus reverb. You got delay, reverb, and chorus. And I thought, geez, wouldn't that be better? And he goes, I'm gonna be straight up with you. He goes, if I had a choice between the two, I'd just get the Pro EQ,
Right.
if that's what you're looking at. He goes, because you have so much control. If you look at, and because you're just looking at that thing, the low cut, the bass, the mid, you've got a notch, you've got the frequency where you can put the mid response.
Yeah, I mean
Treble
it's got basically got a full tone stack that you're gonna get a mixer channel.
Exactly. So you have a full tone stack in your channel.
Plus compression.
And you've got your compression, and and you got your boost built in. So, and you can use it for a bass. And I was like,
sure.
I'm in. I'm done, because I could plug my bass into this and use it as my bass preamp.
Well,
for if I'm
acoustic
playing
bass. I mean, I wouldn't use an electric bass through it, but
And so it's
I think Fishman's got a really sharp blend of products. The only company that even comes close is LR Bags. And
Yeah.
LR Bags, I was looking at their products, and they're like, they want to do everything modular, right? They don't want to include everything all in one. And I think sort of the Fishman product is like, acoustic players really don't want to buy 25 pedals. They want to buy one item. It does a lot of stuff. And actually, I think the Spectrum is probably where I would land, only because of the IR loading. But it also has low, mid, high, and compression. It has a blend control, so you can blend your existing guitar with the IR. And theoretically, you shouldn't really need the high and low shelf. Even the compressor is probably a bit much, because you're going to be basically having all that baked into the IR to begin with, because they're running it through Neve preamps and everything else to give you the sound you're looking for. So
I got to be honest with you, that thing is after having seen a lot of it, that's pretty darn good. Yeah,
1.7
pretty darn
pounds,
good.
1.4 pounds. I mean, that's...
I know. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
And that's everything in a box right there.
17 volts, so it's going to have a special charger.
Yeah, it's got it's just USB charging. And you use a 9-volt if you don't use the USB.
Oh, it's 9-volt. Okay, so 9-volt power adapter. Yes, it's got a charge pump in it. All right.
Yep. And I asked if you can just use like a standard 9-volt, like, what we're used to for pedals. They go, yeah, just as long as you give it the milliamps, you're fine.
Yeah, well, that's true. But the only concern I have is, like, I've got a pedal that's supposedly, it requires 12 volts unregulated, but there's a 9-volt adapter inside, and it'll run on a 9-volt battery. I can tell you it does not sound the same on that 9-volt battery. So you just got to be aware that sometimes they say they have a charge pump, but they really don't. It's like running it on a dead battery, basically.
Well, yeah. So the Aura says that it gets, like, I can't remember how many hours out of a battery, but it's several hours out of a battery. And I can't believe you've got 128 images you can put on there.
Yeah. Well, IRs that's going to be hefty on a battery. I'm surprised they can even handle that. But they're probably 16-bit images. They're probably not 24 or anything. So to lower the CPU load when you load it up, I bet it truncates them. But that's fine as long as they still sound good. And again, this is for live. You're not going to be buying this for a studio. I know some people think that you should do that for the studio. In the studio, you're just going to grab the real guitar off the wall and play that. So that is what it is.
They'll mic you up and they'll DI you. I mean, and that's what the one thing that, again, Drake told me. He goes, we use this in the studio. The Fishman Platinum, the Pro EQ Platinum.
Yeah, some people might use it, that particular product. The Aura, though, I'm saying, like, you're not going to use an IR. You're going to get the real guy.
You'd use a real dread. Yeah, you'd take a real Dreadnought, a real 12-string. You can see, I don't know if I could say, yeah, I tuned up and I took my 12-string down. It's right here. And I strung it up and I cleaned. First, I took it apart. I cleaned it. I tested the electronics, made sure they worked, put the strings back on. That thing is like fighting. So this thing is old. I mean, this is an early Celebrity. Yeah. Back when they put Celebrity on the thing, and it was made in Korea when the Celebrities were made in Korea.
Or there's like mid 90s, early 90s.
Yeah. So we're talking, this thing's like 25 years old. And it's terrible. So here's how bad the pickup system is. There's no 9-volt battery. It's got no punch at all. It's a piece of shit.
So it's totally passive?
Totally passive.
Well, those systems are intended for having something like the Fishman DI box. I mean, that was a thing for a long time where they were doing passives. They wanted to. The reason why they went to the Actives, Jim, was because people started getting pissed off. Like, you mean I have to, amplify it and have a pedal and like all this extra stuff? That's why I play acoustic, so I don't have to have all that extra crap,
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody told me that thing was from the 80s. I honestly don't remember when I got it. That's how long ago it was.
It's an Ovation?
An Ovation Celebrity. It's a Celebrity. So it's a Celebrity 12-string. Let's see. When did the Celebrity 12-strings come about? I know that...
I know they're not super popular now. I mean, that I do know.
Yep. They are. I don't know why.
Yeah, so here's an Elite Celebrity today for $489.
Yep.
It's because those are the ones they're the ones with the plastic molded back, right?
Yeah. Yep. Plastic. The reason that I had it, and I'll be honest with you, this thing's been through hell and back.
That's just gonna say they survived a war, which is why they got popular.
This one literally survived a war. Okay. I believe I had this one in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And this went from the muggy areas of Virginia to the deserts of the Indian Ocean and Jihad, what's the name of the city in Saudi Arabia? It starts with a J. But anyway, it's a famous city. Everybody knows it if I said it. But it's been in Riyadh. It's been in Yemen. It's been in all over the Indian Ocean. It's been up and down. I've had this thing so long. Like I said, I don't even remember what year I got it. I just remember somebody said, "Hey Jim, I got a beat up, crappy acoustic. I'll sell it to you for $25 or whatever." Yeah, sure.
I'm just amazed they're still making them, man. Because like, there's only 2 available right now in Sweetwater. Like,
Yeah.
not in stock, but like listed as products they sell. And this one guy says, I've had mine since 1974. I didn't know they were around that long. I thought they started in the late 80s.
Yeah.
So
So it's an old guitar. You can tell when you see it in person, when you come over and you see it in person, you're going to see all the cracks in the top. But you know what it is? Because I had somebody look at it. He said, "Jim, those are all finished cracks. There is nothing structurally wrong with that guitar at all."
yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. That I would be really
ugly.
shocked if there was anything wrong with it, bracing wise or anything like that.
Nope, nothing.
Because guitars are tanks.
It has literally been. It's got paint on it from when I dropped it. I bumped it against where somebody had wet paint.
I can guarantee you, Jared Dines cannot break an Ovation.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You could knock someone over the head really good with this thing, and it's not going to break. But that's what it's built for. It's a tank.
Yeah.
I know that Ovations got popular in the 70s, especially when bands like Heart and folks like that were using them.
Even the Eagles at one point.
Yeah, the Eagles. I was going to say, didn't Petty use one on one of his videos?
Yeah, I think he used it in a video, but he was not well known for playing them. He was a Martin guy.
Yeah, right.
And Gretsch. He had Gretsch acoustics too.
Yeah, and it might have been Mike. It might have been Mike playing it in the video, but either way,
possibly.
The fact is that they get used a lot, and it just amazes me how much. But I'm fighting it because I haven't touched the truss. I don't even know if it has a truss rod. I think it does. I think it does. I think it's down in the hole.
I was gonna say, it would be in the sound hole on that guitar.
Looking at it right now, I'm pretty sure I can see it. It's in the sound hole. And but I had to clean up. Let me tell you, this is how bad it was. I had kept saying I got to change strings. At
the beginning of this show, you had that guitar hanging on the wall with the strings hanging off of it.
Yes, that's exactly what
I remember.
That's the guitar.
I remember. I was like, does that thing even play?
I finally took it and I cleaned it. This is how bad it was. See that roll of? Oh, you can't see it. It's out of shot. I've got a roll of paper. That I was using to clean it. Bounty, the quicker picker upper. I used a half a roll of Bounty and just Windexed the shit out of that thing. Because you can.
Yeah, with that guitar, just Windex the shit out of it. No one will say anything.
I just cleaned the inside of it. I was like, oh, I hope there's no spiders or anything or cockroaches or anything. I just went through it. And it was like, ew, that's gunk. That's gunk. And then I cleaned up the neck and I used some oil and I used some, at first I was going to use guitar polish. And I said,
yeah, it's like, why bother?
Nah, I just used some, the stuff you buy, lemon pledge or something. Just did the thing. I did the neck correctly. I used the lemon stuff for well, I shouldn't say the neck. The back of the neck on that thing looks like somebody. When you see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. It looks like somebody with talons were playing it. It's got all these like dig marks in it. I don't know if it's because I never put it in a case. It's never been a case ever. It banged around when the ship moved. When the ship was rock and roll, it just bang.
The guitar
bang,
would
bang.
slide across the
tune it up.
floor,
Yeah, I just tune it up and play it.
which is
And you know
which is no
what's
small
amazing?
feat because it's 12 strings.
Right. That's the other part. That's not a lot of fun. But yeah, what I do is I tune the high strings at the one set, and then I just tune everything to those strings, and I go from there. But no, it did amaze me that it played because I'm doing the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald
Okay.
and a couple other songs that have like that 12 string. It's a really haunting sound. If you play a 12 string, I mean, you know David Gilmour on Comfortably Numb.
Yeah,
and
everybody knows a
of course,
12-string song or two. I like
Yeah,
Life
there's
by
a-
the Drop
there's a-
myself, but
Yeah, I played. I wish I hadn't because it hurt my wrist for like an hour. I played. What the hell's the name of that Eagles song? Hotel California.
of course you played that one.
There's
Of course
a
you
lot
did.
of boards in that song. I should have used the capo on the 7th fret trick. Regretted that. Let's just say that. So anyway, yeah, that's a great thing. But yeah, I've got the Fishman coming. I'm excited about that because I really think that that's going to add to things, and it's finally going to be a piece of gear that I freaking buy in the last God knows how long that I'm going to use for gigs. I mean, even that isn't getting used for gigs. I mean, I took it to an open mic. that's where that's been. An open mic. And you know what happened? So I take the 335 to an open mic and I'm playing it and I get all like into the song. And so I turn and I was right next to the PA speaker and I
Did you break it off?
no.
No.
Well, let me tell you something. It's got a chip.
I was laying on my bed this afternoon, and the way my guitars are situated, they're like, I was laying crossways on my bed, and my guitars are on the wall that are on the cross side of my bed. And I reached up, like, I'm going to get the shings down. I'm going to play that for a minute. So I reach over, and I reach up like this, and I grab it, and I bring it down, and I drop it right on the bed. And I'm just, like, waiting for the headstock to crack. I just laughed. I was like, I don't even care.
No.
I don't even care.
No. Let's talk about that. That was something we were going to discuss. Let's talk about good cheap guitars and good people still shilling them. Let's talk about it. And let's not call anybody out. We're not going to call anybody out.
We have our favorites, but
No.
It seems like the community is sort of like halfway revolting. Because I've seen some things in some Facebook groups where people are like, can we stop talking about Fireflies and Harley Bentons and things like that, like as though that they're on the same level as other guitars, which is interesting because I think for about a year there, that was like the only thing anybody wanted to talk about. And I think a lot of people probably in 20, and this is a really bad theory. I don't think people actually did this, but people, because they were buying expensive guitars for the first time with stimulus money, I think they sort of like took a step back and thought about that Firefly that they bought the year before that was sitting next to the Square they started out guitar on or whatever, and they were just kind of like, yeah, maybe this wasn't such a good investment. Now, I can tell you I backslid. I bought my first guitar. It was a Samick. It was a piece of junk. But I bought an Ibanez in the beginner line. I think the guitar was $200, $250. It was before the Geo line and all that. But it was a Destroyer knockoff, one of the Millennium Edition Destroyers. And it was so bad. Like the fretboard looked like it was made out of plastic, even though it was rosewood. And the hardware was cheap and cheesy, and the finish was kind of gross, and the pickups were terrible. The nut was made out of like the worst plastic you'd ever seen. And I can remember like playing that and going, yeah, this is the thing. And when you put a nice big set of strings on it, it was actually okay. But like, anytime in between that, it was so cheesy. So I got rid of that guitar, but like, that was cause I was like, I need another guitar. When I first started playing, I was like, I need more than one, you know? And there was really no reason for it. I think I'd had my other guitar like 3 months maybe. And I didn't get my first real guitar until about a year or 2 years in, and I got a Fender Strat. But that was like my flirtation when I was starting with guitar with cheap guitars. And it set me up for sort of understanding, like, just because a guitar is slightly more expensive than the one you bought doesn't mean it's better. And like what to look for in cheesy stuff, like bad nut, bad tuners, bad electronics, bad body work and that kind of stuff. It was not, it wasn't, so like, as an example of that guitar, it was probably pretty cool. But like, as an example of anything that Ibanez made, it was like on the way cheesier side of things. And that said, I had that S series that when we were doing this, that 470 DXQM, those guitars were pretty cheesy too. So, mine was beyond that, but they just didn't have, the quality parts and hardware and stuff in them that the nicer guys did. So I think that's akin to what people are doing now with the Amazon guitars, sawtooth guitars in particular. They're just, like, I want a new guitar and these are cheap and I can afford one and then I can fill up my wall with them. That's kind of what I think has been going on.
I think that there's something to be said for that. I want to talk a little bit about one of the things. There's a company called EART. eArt. I think it's actually eArt. There's obviously the Fireflies. There's obviously a few others. So one of the things, if you look at their website, or the website on Amazon, actually, there's some things that are, there are things that are being assumed.
Oh my God. That looks an awful lot like a certain model of guitar from Sweden.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why it looks like a Strandberg, but it does. Identically.
So if you look at EART, Earth without the H, if I can say it that way, guitars, for those who have never heard of them, they have some interesting looks. They're inexpensive. If you look at their Telecasters and their Stratocasters, they're in the $196 category.
All the way up to about $300 to $400 on some of their stuff.
And then up to, $300-$400, which I don't think is terrible. The Telecasters are $300.
Oh my God.
But here's one of the things that I think that people are making assumptions because there's an advantage that can be taken of miscommunication. Can I say it that way? So, when someone says stainless steel, okay, one of the things about stainless steel that you have to remember, and those who have never bought flatware, and those
you
who
and I
don't know
both saw the same thing first, so that's really funny. Go on.
Okay, so you're with me on this.
Oh yes.
So baked maple is not necessarily the same baked maple, and stainless steel is not all made the same. So, a lot of people, they get those guitars and they go, "Wow, I've got this stuff on my fingers. I wonder where that's coming from." And
that's probably because it's not actually maple. Or they didn't bake it long enough. They might have baked it under pressure in a certain pressure environment to make that process faster. Part of the reason why baked maple costs money is because it takes time. Okay, it adds additional production time while they actually bake the guitar. But actually, I'm looking through pictures here, and the funny thing is that like the quality stuff isn't what I thought it would be. I figured it would be things like, oh, it's got a roller bridge, and then they don't really roll, which was a thing on the Steinberger R-Trem. I got in an argument with somebody about that recently. Mine rolled. No, they didn't, because the R-Trems that were put on the Music Yo Steinbergers do not roll. Maybe you got a used one where somebody actually swapped out the saddles, but I highly doubt that. Sounds to me like you're just pretending you owned one. Looking at the necks, I mean, So it doesn't have the Endura neck. I can't tell from this picture, but this neck looks twisted. And I don't think it is twisted, but it looks twisted. Because on the back, there's 2 stripes in the back, and they don't look like they're supposed to.
Yeah, they don't look straight. Here's the thing that I don't want to pick on Eert too much, because Eert is probably one of the better of these budget guitars. Looking at their stuff, and especially those Steinbergers, or Strandberg. I'm sorry, thank you. The Strandberg looking ones. I actually think now I'm no fool. I'm not going to have anybody tell me that they just spent $326.99 and got a guitar that's just as good as a Strandberg.
I don't think anybody who buys this is going to tell you it's just as good as a Strandberg either. I think you'll have some people, but those are the same people that are showing them on YouTube kind of deal.
Correct. That's what I'm talking about.
But so the one that got me is you're talking about stainless steel.
Yeah.
Did you read the specs for these guitars?
Yeah.
So
which one are you looking at? The Explorer or the?
I'm looking at the entry or the double shake headless guitar. And I'm just going to read you the spec chart. So this is one of them. It's a carbonized ash body. Carbonized. Yeah. You mean baked?
Carbonized.
No, carbonized. 2 different things.
Carbonized.
They're naming their process differently for a reason.
That's right.
Maple veneer. Wait.
Yep.
A veneer of a maple veneer. What the hell does that mean? And that could just be a translation error, but that sounds like it might not actually be a translation error. There's another one here that has a maple veneer of a maple veneer, and if you look at it, it's not maple. The guitar's not made out of maple. They're made out of they're like burl. Is that maple burl? Because that's different. That's maple with an infection. It has a fungal infection, and it's desirable because it's rare. Pickups, open double coil. Okay, we all know what that means. Fingerboard material, Indian rosewood. That's typical of a guitar this price. Yep. Frets. This is my favorite. 24 fret anti-oxidization. That is not stainless steel. That is nickel with some sort of other alloy added to it. Right. Which is probably just nickel from Jescar. Okay?
Yep.
Or some other brand like that. And then it's available in left-handed. No, none of them are. But I just think it's really funny. Like, here's one carbonized African redwood. What? Carbonized.
You just read that. And carbonized African redwood.
And it looks like the same as the maple, the maple burl. And what makes it really funny is when you look down the pictures down below, you can tell how bad the book match on the body is, which that's fine. On a guitar this price, I don't expect to get a book matched body at all. So, I mean, the hardware doesn't look horrendous, but you won't know until you strip the screws, which is probably inevitable on something of this price, even using the right size screwdrivers. And, I mean, that's basically it. And they're like, so the reason why I would never do this is because you can't get replacement parts for this. What are you going to replace it with? And that's clearly a Hipshot bridge on it, or Hipshot alike bridge.
Yeah.
It's not a Hipshot bridge. It's a Hipshot alike because the way the trem arm mounts it is different. The Hipshot's all one piece. And then they have the set one that's like totally different looking than the other one. But they're not Hipshot. They're a Hipshot knockoff for sure. These things are a mess. I wouldn't buy one of these. These are terrifying.
Yeah. And then you've got another one that I'm looking at. This is the Eert Explorer 1, by the way.
Okay.
A veneer, poplar veneer.
What the hell is that? What does that even mean?
I don't know. And then African. Now, I want to get one thing that I don't think people understand. I take my guitars apart for a reason. I look in them for a reason. All right. And I don't have guitars that are made overseas for the most part. I've got 2. One's made in Japan, well, exception of my my 12 string, obviously. One made in Japan and one made in Indonesia, and I think it's Indonesia. My PRS SE, but anyway, so if you look at a guitar, when you open it up and you look inside, you can see a veneer. The problem is the thickness of a veneer. And this is where it really gets a little scarier with these. When it says veneer, and I don't know because I'm only going by what used to be when they really wanted to knock prices down. What they did was it was a photo flame.
Yeah.
So
I have a
what
feeling
was
that's
happening-
what is here is you're getting a photo flame on top of an actual veneer.
Yep.
That's what I think is going on. Although, if you look in the pictures, you can see texture. So that's not a photo flame, but it's something like that, where they're vacuum forming the top or...
Right, that's what I was going to say, where they're vacuum forming it. Because that's another way of getting the top, especially to seal fast. When you're using, not even an eighth of an inch, you're using less than the 16th of an inch of
I'm going to send you an image, Jim. Describe what you see in this image to our, not the text, but what you see in this image to our listeners, because I noticed some stuff in this image right away that's very troubling. And this is not a customer image. This is a production image from them. If you want, I could describe it, and you'll see it when I point it out, I'm sure. So if you look at where the edge of the guitar, the top meets the body, you see how rough that is? The rough cut there, and then you can see that the other one is not done by. It does not look like it's done by machine. It looks like it's hand done. You can see that it's almost straight in one part, and then there's like a corner where they didn't shape it out well enough. And if you look around where it meets the neck on the heel, do you see the little specks where it wasn't finished properly? And the little flaking up by where it like wraps around the neck, usually where you would get a finish crack, or not finish crack, but a pocket crack. There's none of like this joint looks like a disaster. It has not been finished properly for sure. And if you look along the edge of the fretboard, you can see that the way the light is catching it, it looks like a line. And I think it's because when they actually filed down the fret edges, they actually chattered into the board. These are minor issues for playability, but they indicate the level of craftsmanship that went in. They didn't even get like a proper one to take photos of, which is kind of scary to me.
Yeah, I think what happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think what they're doing is there's a lot of stuff that I think there's stuff that would have been done by hand that's being done by a machine.
Yeah,
and badly.
It could be
when it comes to the fretboard and the neck. And looking at the frets, because everybody talks about how their frets are smoothed off, like they're rolled fret edges. They're like, oh, look at this, they're all rolled. I don't think they were rolled, not by a hand. I think they were cut that way.
Yeah,
and I think, and I could be wrong, the machine could be doing that. I think that what's happening is they're actually cutting the frets small on purpose.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And then they're grinding down the board to meet the fret instead of the vice versa.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at that picture and look up where the like the first, second, third fret is, you can see these like weird marks in the board where the light's hitting it. Mm-hmm. That's not normal. I don't know what's causing that. That's some sort of machining mark. But if you look at the body in the blue body in that picture, you can see there are holes where the fungus like ate through the top. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if they're doing this, they got some sort of sophisticated process for how they're punching these holes in these guitars. But I will say this, those guitars look fake as shit. Like when you look at those tops, they look like bowling balls. There's no way that they have that quality of top. And there are definitely pieces of wood out there that can look like that. But they're on $4,000 and $5,000 guitars, not $300 guitars. So that's why I'm like, either these are really expensive custom shop pieces that were built somewhere that they're using for photographs, and that the real guitars don't look like these, or this is some sort of photographic process and they look ridiculous. Like, in my opinion, these are hilarious. They just don't. They
Yeah.
look absurd.
Well, again, and all right. So my son and I go bowling, and I see a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, how do they make those balls look so cool? And they tell me it's the swirl process that they
Right.
use to, So I wouldn't be surprised. And the other thing that I wouldn't be surprised of, and of course I'm not over there, and I don't know, but plastic is going a long way, and I don't know if what they're doing is they're finding a way, because wood is getting expensive.
Yeah, I wonder if this is some sort of plastic top with a swirl and etching in it, and maybe they're
'Cause
ordering it
nobody's-
this way. Like maybe it's
I
for
mean-
furniture, and they figured out a way to use it on guitars or something.
Right. And I don't know, because if I can bet you this, because I know that there's let's face it, when you buy a piece of stainless steel, or you buy a stainless steel spoon from a dollar store, that is not the same one you're getting from Tiffany's. Okay, so I shouldn't say Tiffany's, because Tiffany's probably doesn't use stainless steel. Let's say somewhere more expensive. I don't know, the Kitchen Depot or something. So just to say it's stainless steel does not mean stainless steel means stainless steel. And they make softer stainless
Yeah,
on purpose. There's a lot of use for softer stainless steel because, say, a butter knife is softer stainless steel, believe it or not, than a fork, on purpose. So there are things that are going, in and out of this. I'm a little suspect, again, like I said, of the tops. I'm a little suspect of what is. Yeah, I see that.
well, the one I sent you, that actually looks realistic. That looks correct,
Yep.
right? Which is why I said I
And
think
you
the
can-
models are trumped up. I don't think that's really what they look like.
Right. And one of the things that I do know for a fact is people will get photographs and they get them in. They're like, wow, in the photos, these, especially the pick guards, this is the biggest thing. They're like, wow, in the photos, the pick guards don't look this green.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I know that when 60 Cycle Hum did theirs. Yeah, there's an Explorer one right there.
Well, the reason why we're showing
Um,
you that headstock, you can see it's pretty rough.
yeah.
That's not a well cut headstock at all.
No, and I'm willing to bet, and I'm not saying that you should beat your guitars around, but I'm willing to bet if I don't think these guys will take a licking and keep on taking.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
What's interesting about that Explorer headstock in the photo? Look at the photo. What else is going on in that photo that's out of focus in the background?
You mean the guitars in the background?
How many guitars does this guy have?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
That you can see.
I can see 10 of them.
Remember what I said about the archetype of who's buying these guitars? Yeah, we'll just leave that
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
That's the proof I need in the pudding.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with people who want to buy, a good number of guitars. I just,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at these, I'm kind of like, I wouldn't mind having one just to beat around. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
but I'm not like, so I have to be sensible about my purchases. Like, I'm about to spend a bunch of money to buy an equipment cart. So for me, it's like,
right.
I'm actually really excited about that, by the way, which is like the masochist inside of me, right? But I'm just like, I'm just looking at stuff like this, and I'm glad you brought this up again this episode, because it was in the episode I just edited in. The more I think about it, like the more that this kind of drives it home. Here's a guitar company that's promising to deliver something that's just not going to happen at this price point. It's just not going to happen at this price point. And
And the problem I've got is this, that there's a lot. YouTube is full of it. And I think the reason that YouTube is full of the videos for this is because there are so many people willing to watch videos that give them.
everybody wants
what do
to
we call
dream
it?
about what they can afford as being
Yeah,
as
what do we
good
call it?
as.
Right. That personal validation. What do they call that?
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. Where people are getting a huge amount of confirmation bias as a result of seeing these things, and they're saying, "Wow, look at that! I could really use to see or buy that." And crap, I mean,
Then I won't need a Strandberg.
Right. Right.
Which you don't need a Strandberg anyway.
You don't need a Strandberg, and so don't make a big deal out. Just get it, but you don't need to get 4 of them.
I definitely had. I've had a couple of revelatory moments in the last couple of years, and I've been on this crusade, for a new guitar for a long time. And I've been asking myself lately, like, what do I even need a new guitar for? I mean, my S500 gets the job done. I have a backup, which sounds similar. It's not the same guitar. If something happened to that one, I would probably replace it. But like, do I need a humbucker equipped guitar right now? And the answer is no. Do I want one?
The answer
Hell
is
yeah.
yes.
Do I want one? Hell yeah, I want one. But there are other things that are more important that I actually do need that are equipment related. Like freaking carts to move gear on and battery powered PA so I can get tips. Like
that's right. And the new Wampler pedal that just came out.
You're talking about the Ratsbane?
Called the Bell? Oh, I thought they just released one called a Bell or something.
Somebody probably
sent
did.
Me a picture.
I ain't worried about it.
I don't know. Somebody sent me a picture. I looked at it.
I have two pedals. I have 2 pedals on my mind. I will be completely blunt and honest with our listenership. I am looking for a Rat right now. Send me your recommendations. I went and I played the Warhorse. I you know what? I'm not buying Ratsbane, and there's a reason for it. Why the hell did they not put that in the full-size enclosure?
I know. That's the one thing about it that pisses me off.
Oh God! There's a finger enclosure, and everybody wants finger enclosures because they need to reclaim their board space. I'm here to tell you, you're not reclaiming anything.
You're not reclaiming it.
Your pedal, your input jacks stick out just as much, and they're offset, which means it's harder to arrange pedals to the right and the left of it. You're not saving anything.
You know what else didn't get any smaller? Your fucking foot.
Well, that's just it, right? Like, so yeah, I can cram all these goddamn pedals on my board and then buy a $500 switcher so I can actually turn them on and off.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. You got to buy a freaking switcher. You got to be, and that's the thing about the cork sniffer side of things is those guys from That Pedal Show.
Yeah.
Who we love so much.
They have popularized the idea that you have to have a switcher.
They have popularized. They are literally the us of the pedal world because they're the cork stickers of the pedal world.
Well, you know what? So like, I don't actually like. They are cork sniffers. Let's be real. And I think they would tell you they're cork sniffers. I would think they would tell you they're cork sniffers too.
They don't make any. Yeah, they don't make any bones about it.
But
we're not saying anything that's negative. I mean,
not in my mind, because I mean, like, let's be real. Like Jim and I both have our fancy shit that we, like I've got my amps and Jim's got his guitars, and
I don't have anything fancy.
Yeah, well,
what are you talking about?
Did you get another one? No, I'm kidding.
No, that's the same one.
I'm just kidding. I think you should start borrowing people's Les Pauls for the show just to mess with people.
So as you can see, there's like those Les Pauls, and then there's that one. I was, I'm getting ready to do my taxes, and I'm like,
you're like, shit.
They're like, oh shit, should I sell one? Because I literally, if
make payments,
if the taxes
you'll be fine.
Come up the way I think, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to care because I'm not going to sell a guitar to please the man. That's not going to happen.
No, you'll just do more gigs.
Somehow, I want everybody to know I am not I am so anti-establishment, and yet that's who I work for. So it's weird. I'm a weird paradox.
Jim definitely has moments where he's like, "You can't say this because I'll get me in trouble."
Yeah, literally. Somebody said, "Why did you get the shot?" Because I want to keep my job.
Sort of forced to. Well, I think that's true. Hey, that's true of people in the private sector too, man. Though, because there is a raging debate right now of whether your employer can tell you that is a requirement for your employment. And I suspect it might actually go to the employers on that one. So there's a lot of people out there that are getting vaccines for that. Now, this is
a tough one.
This said, you know what? I don't get, like, I've had so many people tell me, it's an experimental vaccine, whatever. Listen, you don't know the history behind this. This has been around for 10 plus years. They have been testing these vaccines with markers. In other words, not vaccinating people, but injecting it and finding out if they can read the marker out on your DNA. They know it works. They know it doesn't kill people. They know it doesn't cause long-term health effects at least greater than 10 years. So, just a little over 10 years, I mean. So who cares? Just go get the damn vaccine. What's the damn problem? Like, it's not killing people. Even the other one. You're talking about 0.0000. You'd be more likely to die from coronavirus, like 10 times more likely to die from coronavirus than to get the one that's giving people heart issues. Yep. Like, are you serious? What are you worried about?
Exactly. But like I said, I am looking. I'm looking to my future, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to look to your future. What was I saying? Oh, so when it comes to guitars, I gotta be honest. I've got two guitars I don't need on top of one guitar that I really like having. But I'm going to tell you this. So today I pulled the Strat out for the first time in a long time. It's actually not hanging on the wall. That's actually sitting on a stand. You are a Strat guy. There's no question about that. You are a Strat guy. I tried like hell to get a tone I liked out of it. Now I got to be honest with you. There was two things going against it, so it's not like I had it on my mini board, which sucks. My mini board sucks ass, and I had it going into the front end of the twin reverb, and it felt so weak and tinny to me, and no matter what I did, I jacked it back to the what do you call it? Pickup. I had to take my blues driver and just like crank the freaking cane. I was like, give me something out of this thing. Give me some meat and bones out of this thing. And that's me. That says a lot to me though. And it doesn't say a lot about the guitar. I want people to understand what I'm trying to say is that I'm not saying it's a bad guitar. I'm saying I'm not coaxing the sounds out of it. I should be.
That's a big point that people need to hear sometimes.
Yeah.
So here's the funny part. I'll break this down in a couple of ways. So I started out, I was not a Strat guy. When I first started buying Strats, it was because they were cheap. And I could buy, a professional level guitar for $400. And I could go out and I could, do my little high school band and stuff. And it worked out really well. The guitar was solid. I didn't have to spend a lot of money on repairs and that kind of thing. So it worked out, right? And then I always knew like, oh yeah, all the bands I was listening to back then were playing Dumble humbucker guitars, right? So or an HSS. So I was always lusting after like the Super Strat or a Les Paul. And I actually I bought an Epiphone Les Paul from a pawn shop that was kind of cool. And I played that for a couple of years off and on. And I had a Godin SD XT, which was a humbucker single. Was it? Or was it a humbucker single hum? I don't remember. I think it was a single hum. And those guitars were okay. What was weird was I found myself on the hum single guitars playing the neck pickup a lot. And then, so that was like, what, how do I reconcile that? And then I started playing a Strat again and gravitating towards that neck pickup. I actually swapped my bridge pickup on my Strat for a stacked, humbucker at one point. Actually twice. That pickup broke and then I got another one. And then it was like, at that point I was kind of like, okay, there's something to this. And so I actually, when I got my S500, that was the first guitar where I was like, I'm just going to keep the stock single coils. I'm not going to screw around with it or anything. And they're MFDs. So I sort of knew going in, like, those pickups were going to be different. And they were bigger and meatier, but they're still Strat pickups. Like, if you plug them in to and you do it right, and you manipulate the tone controls, you can get it to sound like a Strat. But the strange part about it is that was kind of like my roads back to being able to play single coil guitars. And it's only been in the last year where I've been able to step back and be like, it's not really a thin sound. People think it's a thin sound because when they come over from a Les Paul or an SG, you want to use the bridge pickup for everything. You're not going to use that bridge pickup much. The neck pickup is the moneymaker. You want to get some fatter tones out of it, use the neck pickup. If you're concerned about output level, drive it. You have to change the way you play, and you have to change your amp settings, and you have to change your pedal settings. Things will not work the same way. They don't, because you're driving it with a lower signal. But what you find out is, after you do it long enough, if you quit your Les Paul's cold turkey and you play a Strat for 3 months, and you play with that neck pickup and you get your whole rig dialed in to work with it, you go back to a Les Paul, you're like, where's the fucking clarity? Like that honestly, when I pick up a Les Paul or an SG or any of that, that's my first thought. I was like, holy shit, where's my treble?
Yep. So I'm going to tell you a true story. So in 2000, late 2000, I saw a 2000 Strat hanging on the wall. It was an American standard pickup, standard everything. And it was $500 used, and I grabbed it. I said, $500? I can get a professional guitar.
Yeah, but you modded the crap out of that thing, Jim.
That was later. So I grabbed it. I picked it up. Now, I had been playing a jazz box. I was playing an old Samick big hollow body jazz box. And again, I was used to that big, bold sound. And I said, nope, I'm going to play a Strat. And I went Strat. And I played a Strat. So every time I bought a Les Paul, I returned it, because just what you were just saying about when you have a Strat and then you get a Les Paul, I was like, I bought, and I wish I would have kept it. I bought one of those Swamp Ash Les Paul studios that was just Swamp Ash. If you look up Swamp Ash Les Paul studio, you'll see what I'm talking about. Beautiful guitar. They go for a lot more money now. I got it for $600, brand new. They couldn't give those things away. They were like, come on, get over here and buy one. And I was like, $600 for a Les Paul? Yeah, sure. Had the Burstbucker Pros in it. Great guitar. But I was so used to having that clarity and that fine tooth. I was like, I can't dial out that stuff that I can give to my Strat. And at the time for the Strat, I was pushing it with a MXR, the double shot. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I had the double shot, and I had a dime bag, the two one, and I had a 10 band EQ. Those were my pedals, my primary pedals. So you could see I just pushed it. And so no matter what I did, I never felt like the Les Paul gave me the clarity I wanted. And so I went through SG, I went through Les Paul, I bought another SG, I bought an Angus Young Signature SG. I was like, come on, that's got to be the one. I spent like $1,800.
Yeah, I remember you complaining about SGs. You had like multiple and you didn't like any of them.
None of them.
It seems like you got like an SG Supreme or something right before the show started, and then like you sold it before the show actually started. Yeah. Or you took it back. I don't remember which.
I returned that one, and I bought a Pelham Blue one, which actually I liked. So that was
that's one that's the Kick in the Nuts guitar right there.
Yeah, that was a Kick in the Nuts guitar. That was during my
Would you sell that to get a PRSCE again, or
something
SE
like that,
or something? I
saw
you sell some guitars where I was like, what were you thinking?
That's when sadness. I'll tell you guys, sometimes when you're selling all your stuff, and I want to be serious here for just a second. I know that, and David is laughing because he did go through it with me. I went through a period of depression where I thought that to wipe all my things out would wipe me out. And I could erase me through erasing things. So sometimes when you're thinking to yourself, that guitar I always loved, or that car I always loved, or those golf clubs I always loved, whatever it is, and you think to yourself, geez, maybe I should change them out. Think about whether or not you're really trying to change those out, or you're trying to change something else.
I have seen people try to ditch all their possessions because they're in depression countless times, and generally it's either the scenario you're describing, or it's like, if I get rid of all my things, I'll be invisible, and then people won't worry about me anymore. And it's like, yep. I watched you go through it. I didn't know what was going on, Jim. To be completely honest, and honest to our listeners, like, I was talking to Jim about some of this stuff and being like, why did you sell this, or why did you do that? And some of that probably happened on the show too. And it's like,
yeah,
I could see what was going on, and I'm like, this is messed up. And I didn't necessarily understand it. So
I'll go ahead and be totally honest with everybody. I was this close to eating a bullet. So for those of you who think that, you know, sometimes you see someone and you think to yourself, oh, they're doing fine. You know,
no, not always.
And we're not always doing fine. And it was, believe it or not, there were a lot of times, and you don't know you did this because I don't think you were conscious of it, but there were a lot of times when you and a couple other friends of mine would reach out to me, and in some of the deepest, darkest times that I had.
If you think I didn't know what was going on, you're crazy. No, I knew what was going on.
Yeah, I needed that. I needed people to say positive things, even just to talk to me, just to say, hey, Jim, what's up?
Sometimes you just need somebody to, like, realize that they actually care about your existence, even if it's for you to be, you know, a thorn in their side sometimes or whatever. Like, that's, you know, unfortunately, that's why we exist. I mean, is to interact with others. So,
yeah. And we need that in our lives. It's a virtual hug. And it, you know, you could take it for what you want to take it for, folks, but sometimes you need that.
I need to take a break for just a second, Jim. I'm going to actually pause the recording.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're back. We were having technical difficulties. OBS was spitting at me. So we're good now, though. Nice to know that it actually rescued us that time. Usually when that happens, like, we're totally screwed.
Yeah, it just shuts all over us.
Yeah. For a minute there, I was kind of panicking. I was like, did we just lose a whole episode again? Like, you know, kind of thing. But no, that didn't happen. So,
yeah, I mean, so anyway, yeah, I think one of the things that I'm going through right now, musically, is, you know, I've found that I really love playing these things, you know, these humbuckers, and I found that I'm a humbucker person. Now, does that mean I'm going to get rid of my Strat? No effing way. Because the minute I get rid of it, you know what I'm going to want?
A Strat.
Yeah.
But so you're having a musical renaissance, and you're starting to realize, like, you gravitate towards certain things. Everybody does.
Yeah.
And I think I honestly, like, people always say, oh, there's, like, you know, you're either a Beatles person or you're a Doors person, or you're, you know,
right.
You're a Priest or Maiden kind of thing. I think there are people that are humbucker people, and there are people that are single coil people. And there are people that definitely straddle the line. But I will say that I think that, like, most people fall into one category or the other. They prefer one or the other, and they build a rig around it. I mean, I don't know a lot of guys that run Strats and Les Pauls in the same rig without at least setting changes, maybe different pedals that they use for different guitars, like on the same board even. I think it's hard. Like, if I get my Shengzai out, which has Les Paul pickups, that has a very Les Paul sound to it, right? Even though it's a Shengzai. If I get that guitar out, nothing I have that I use with my Strats works right. I have to adjust a lot of stuff. And I know how to get around it, but I could see you coming up against that problem and being like, what a damn nightmare. Like, they don't even play the same. And, like, you know, of course, the hot pickup thing, that's a bit of a misnomer. It's more, what you're reacting to is the rounder mids, the bouncier rounder mids. But, I mean, I've been in that boat. I've gone back and forth over the years. Like, in fact, actually, that's part of the reason why I liked my Kiesel so much, which I still own. I guess we could probably talk about that later in the episode too. But the reason why I kept the Kiesel is because it's got, well, not because I kept it, but like the reason why I liked it so much is the pickups are very bright. They're like single coils, except that they're hum canceling and they're loud as shit. Okay. Which is funny because you'd never think that like metal players would be into big fat, like lots of treble machines, but that's what these pickups are designed for. They're designed to be bright and over the top. All right, let's switch gears for a second. So we've been talking about gear a lot in this episode. I had one more new thing to share, and I think I briefly mentioned at the beginning. Did the open jam the other night, and it was like a reunion. So I have to give an honorable mention to Mike and Paul Pickley for coming out. Mike Mara, Paul Pickley, of course Nick Bonners, and Jeff Biazadecki for being there in spirit, and Colin from Good Time. He's a bass instructor for Good Time Music. He was there. He actually heads the booking up for the place. And it was all right. So this was the craziest open jam I've ever seen. This is why I have to start talking. Cause like I've been to a couple now and, I've been to a lot of open mics and never have I gone into a place where, they had they played 2 songs, which Nick was a part of this band with 13 members, I think, on stage. 13 people on stage. Let me explain how this happened. So when I walked in at 7:00, they were going to have featured band. That was Mike Mara's band. They were going to play 3 or 4 tunes and have some guests and stuff. And when I walked in, it was like 7:30. Host was still playing. 2 bands got up. I was in one of the bands. I was asked to get up and play with them. And I think I was in the second group of people, maybe third. And so at this point, it's already like 8:30, and then the featured band gets up, and they're done by 9:15-ish. Which I was supposed to sit in on a song, but I didn't because they knew that if they added me in addition to the host, because the host played keys on it, that if they added me in addition to the host, the song was going to go like 15 minutes. So it was like, nah, this is probably not such a good idea, and I was cool with that. I'd hoped I was going to get to play again, but didn't end up happening. So the band after them was like, let's get as many people up here as possible because we have to finish out this night by 11:00. So that's how you ended up with 13 people. We had a full horn section. When I say full, we had a trumpet player, 2 saxophone players. I'll just go through the whole band roster. We had a trumpet player, 2 saxophone players, a cellist, keyboard player, a bass player, drummer, obviously, 3 guitarists. and I think one of the guitarists was also a vocalist. And I know we had steel drum. What else? There's something else I'm missing. Because there was like, I counted the amount of people. I was like, holy hell. And it was just pure chaos. So they start playing, and I thought they were going to play "Can You Hear Me Knocking" by the Rolling Stones. But for a little bit of trivia, does anybody know what chord progression that song shares chords with? It shares chords with what's the Grateful Dead tune? I forget the name of it offhand. Now I'm gonna have to look.
You got me because I do not know.
It's oh god damn it! It's Fire on the Mountain, I think is the name of it.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's the same chords. And when you hear somebody play it the first time, you're just waiting for that, and then you realize, no, it's Fire on the Mountain. It's like, and the whole band is playing the song, and everybody gets a solo, and it's like not a 4-bar solo. It's like, 24 measures or something. There's a guy in the back who's got a Les Paul recording, and he's plugged into a solid state Fender red knob amp, like a 25 watter from, we know it was an M80. So it's an 80 watt solid state red knob amp from like the 80s. And that thing had to be dimed. And so Nick was playing through my Fillmore, and the other guy was playing through the 66 Super Reverb that was there. And we're all just sitting there and listening to this. And like the guy in the back who's playing through the red knob is just pissed. He's so angry no one can hear him. So angry no one can hear him. And he's like basically flipping off the host, who's the sound guy also, and screaming and doing this at places in the song because he can't hear himself. And of course, I'm sitting there. Now, I'm not sure everybody else I was sitting with knew this, but I knew this. They didn't mic up anything. So I knew what the problem was. This guy's got a way underpowered amp for playing with 13 people, and he's pissed because he can't hear himself and nobody can hear him. Well, get pissed, dude. You showed up to a gunfight with a knife.
Knife, yep.
I mean, what did you think was going to happen? And the guy who actually owned the amp played in one of the other bands, and his amp was just sitting there, and he'd lent it to him, but it was like, I don't even think he used his amp. I think he plugged into the Super Reverb. So
right.
It was just, you go to these things and you're like, oh, thank God I'm prepared. Because I had to walk a quarter of a block. I mean, I had to cross a busy street and stuff to get there, and carry my Fillmore, which was kind of a pain in the ass. It's a 40-pound amp. It's 38 pounds or something. And I didn't have a cart. I didn't bring my pedal board. I just had my guitar, the Fillmore, my looper, just in case. I didn't know if I was going to have to be playing tracks. And then I brought, I had my King of Tone in my bag too. And that was all I brought. And honestly, didn't plug any of the other gear in except for the Fillmore. And then it was great all night. Had no complaints about that. But I'm so glad I brought an amp. Because if I'd showed up to that and not had an amp, what would I have played through? Because chances are I was going to get stuck on the stage with somebody else. And I'll also say this, the Fillmore cut pretty good next to that 66 Super Reverb, which that was pretty impressive for a modern amp to be able to handle, like one of those holy grail sounds, and it held its own. I mean, I wish I'd had the master up a little bit more, but I'm told that it was audible from the audience. A little bit harder for me to hear it because it was aimed at my ankles, but yeah, I'm going back. It's gonna be fun. That place is wild. There was a lot of people there too. So if you're in the Chicago area and you're looking for a place to do an open jam, the one at Pollyanna is great. Lots and lots of people. Really fun show. And friendly people. Except for the guy that got like super pissed off. What? I've never seen anybody get that irritated. But I think he was just mad because like I showed up to this open jam and now I'm going to have to play with this group of like 11 people or 13 people that showed up. And I think what happens is that the horn section and the band with the cello and stuff, they played in this other group. And I think they're part of a music school. And I think and it's probably an adult music school, like adult music education as well. So they go out and they do this to promote the school or whatever. And like, it just sucked because it was like, now we have to make amends for this whole group of people. And chances are you're only going to be able to play songs with like really simple progressions that they may not know. And, that whole thing, they were all really good. I'm not going to pretend like they weren't good at what they were doing, but it was just, you end up in situations where people are going to be frustrated because they don't really get their feature in a jam like that. Now, granted, I have a different attitude about music. So when I go into that situation, I'm like, this isn't about me. This is about making quality music. And so even, you can ask Mike about my performance here, because I think he was the only one that actually saw me play, where I was playing subdued. He asked me, he said, you had some really tasty stuff there. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, I didn't get to go balls to the wall tonight. And meaning like, I usually don't play that tasty because I have to, because I want to just go for it, It was kind of funny because he's like, well, but it fit. And I'm like, yeah, I know, cause like, yeah, I know. It's not what I wanted to do though.
Yeah. I wanted to melt some faces.
Yeah, that's what I was wanting to get up there and like, play some crazy stuff and two-handed tapping and, all these odd time signatures and polyrhythms and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
He's probably laughing because he's like that asshole don't know anything about music theory, and he's probably right. He's on the side giving me kind of I wouldn't call them theory lessons, but like theory like slaps in the face. It's like, you fucking idiot. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I am. I freely admit it. But yeah, I should have paid attention in college. That would have been good. Anyway,
Yeah.
so open jam, Pollyanna. I'm getting back in the circuit. That's the goal here. I'm vaccinated, and it's apparently effective against variants. So until I've been told otherwise, I am going to be playing my ass off for a while. And Twitch, so I feel guilty because I haven't been on Twitch in like a week doing this stuff, and I'm getting back on that too. But it's just speed bump, like I got to get a schedule going, and until I can iron out exactly what my open mic things are going to look like, I can't really do that. So anyway, that's my self-promotion moment.
So I had, I've been out doing my thing. And matter of fact, I got invited to another open mic this week. So I've been doing a Wednesday open mic. So Tuesday I have rehearsals. So tomorrow night I'll go to rehearsal, and Wednesday night I've got open mic, and then the same band is going to host another open mic. Well, they've asked me not only just to play guitar with people, but if they need a bass player, can you play bass too? Can you go?
Yeah,
back
just
and forth?
so can you just bring like 3 times as much equipment?
Yeah. So for this week's music, I'm just going to bring. I'll bring a Strat. I think. I think I'm going to bring Strat. As much as I was just complaining about it,
it covers a ton of ground.
And because I've got some stuff that's kind of acoustic-ish, and I'm just going to play the Strat to make it brighter and prettier. And I'm going to bring the bass.
Your Aerodyne.
And we'll see what happens. Yeah, the Aerodyne.
So when you do a set like that, do you take an amp, or what are you playing through when you're there?
Yeah, so I take the. Where is it? Right there. I take the Fender Blues Junior, or I take the Twin.
I think either of those amps would be exceptional for like a Strat amp, especially in those kind of situations. We watched that guy play with the M80, and I think he was plugged into the Super Reverb, but he could have very well been plugged into the M80 because he was playing really clean, and it really fits vocally a lot of people because nobody has that super high chime thing going on that's in their vocal range, where I've heard people who kind of, Les Paul like stomps on them a little bit, so if you're going to play electric and sing, like I could definitely see a Strat being like preferable for a lot of people to a Les Paul or any other really humbucker equipped guitar, I suppose.
And I'll be singing, so I'll give you the list of songs I'm going to be doing. Let me pull that up. So I know that Wildfire is one of them. So I'll be doing Wildfire by Michael Martin Murphey, Year of the Cat by Al Stewart.
Okay.
Smoking in the Boys' Room by Brownsville Station. Should I Stay or Should I Go, which is a great Strat tune.
Aren't you going to do some Motley Crue?
And Old Time Rock and Roll. Well, we could do Smoking in the Boys' Room by Motley Crue, but we're not gonna do that. What I want to do is have them learn the guitar part so I can sing. I want to do what's the one Dr. Feelgood. But I cannot play the guitar part to Dr. Feelgood and sing it. I can play the bass, but I cannot play the guitar part and sing that.
Are you saying that it's a little difficult?
Feel good.
Yeah, are you saying it's a little difficult? I mean, you saying that they needed Vince Neil to do that? I mean, can we talk about Vince Neil? Can we talk about Vince Neil for a minute? I
don't even know.
We've hated on David Lee Roth enough on this show. Like, just generally, I mean, I don't hate him. I actually think he's incredibly talented, but
I like David Lee Roth.
But we laugh because David's like, his live performance capabilities are like nil, and I don't know whether they were ever good, but they're not good now for sure.
No, they were. I saw them in their heyday. I saw him with Van Halen 3 times. I saw him during Van Halen 2. It was Van Halen 1 or Van Halen 2.
I know you saw him on the solo tour with the Eat 'em and Smile tour.
I saw him on the solo tour, and I saw him on the 1984 tour. I also saw them on the OU 812 and For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge.
Yeah.
Those two tours, which were incredible. Sammy Hagar delivers phenomenally.
I don't have anything negative to say about him either. I just was more or less pointing out that Vince Neil can't sing anymore. He sounds horrible. I was watching a guy. There's a guy in Germany. I watch his guitar streams on Twitch pretty regularly. He streams probably 3 or 4 times a week. And he's got like the stupid simple Twitch rig, and like I really envy him because it's like dirt simple. He can literally just plug in and go. Whereas I have like an hour of prep work putting my equipment up so I can do it. Anyway, he does his like I'm having a moment because I'm sitting here, I'm like, I could make this so I could do this really quick. Anyway, he does his little like at the end of his stream, sometimes he'll do like, let's watch some YouTube videos together. And then he'll pull up like, oh, here's a Guns N' Roses video. One day because I haven't like listened to Vince Neil. I'm not a big Motley Crue fan in general, but like I definitely have not listened to Motley Crue touring before the big retirement bash thing that they did. Holy shit, Vince Neil let himself go. And I'm not just talking about his body, but like his ability to sing is horrible. It's just collapsed.
All right, so I have not seen Vince Neil since was it St. Angels? St. Angelellas? Whatever. So that was their final tour.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and that's because Mick Mars couldn't do it anymore. It was, there was no way.
Right.
As it was, first of all, I think Mick Mars is great. I really do. I think he's fantastic. And to see him suffer the way he did, and I could see it even in the state. You know, I was only 8th row.
Well, let's be real for a minute though. Mick Mars is Motley Crue.
Yeah, and he really Mick Mars and Nikki Sixx, because.
Yeah,
but I think
like,
about Nikki Sixx as far as musically, but songwriting wise, Nikki Sixx wrote that.
Yeah, shit. But I'm just saying, like, you couldn't have had the live performances if you hadn't had Mick Mars. He was the only professional in that band, like real professional, where it was like, we're going to go out and we're going to do it this way, and this is the way it's going to be every single night. Whereas the rest of them would have just been mired in drugs and drinking and fast cars and all kinds of nonsense. I mean,
I mean, Tommy was phenomenal. So during the final, I've seen them like 3 or 4 times, and when I saw them the first time, it was during the one, I don't remember, for some reason. Now my brain can be making this up, by the way, because there's an effect. What is the effect where you remember things wrong, but it's because it seems like it should be right?
Is it the Mandela effect?
That's it. My daughter just did that to me the other day. She goes, "Dad, does this word have a dash in it or not?" And I'm like, does Kit Kat have a dash in it? You know, that type of thing. And so anyway, so I could be remembering it wrong, but so Kiss, Motley Crue, and Poison were on tour around the same time, and I want to say either Kiss and Motley Crue or Kiss and Poison were touring together during the that first Motley Crue record, and Poison had what the cat drug in or something. Let the cat drag in or something like that. And then there was Motley Crue had I used to call it She's Got Boots That Smell. And then
oh, by the way, you were talking about Saints of Los Angeles being their last tour. No, that was not their last tour because they toured in 2015.
That's the tour I saw them on, the last tour.
Yeah, right.
And that was what, 2007?
2008, 2010. That it lasted to 2010.
Yeah, I saw him in whatever date Saratoga Performing Arts Center, Saratoga, New York was.
Yeah,
that's the date I saw him. Which could have been 2008 or 2009 or 2000.
Makes no difference.
No concept of time.
It's not like Vince Neil was amazingly better back then. I mean,
no, he was not. But Tommy was on the top of his game. He did the spinning cage, and he was drumming, and he had a thing that's not politically correct enough for me to say on the show. But let's just say that
he was Tommy Lee being Tommy Lee.
Yeah, he was Tommy Lee, and it was great, and it was a great show. But anyway, to watch Vince stand on the sideline pretty much and just strum because he couldn't, or not Vince, I'm sorry, Mick. It was really painful to watch him, and I think so. It was probably towards the end of the tour. They had, I want to say, Five Finger Death Punch and a couple other bands I give a shit about. I could have given a shit.
Yeah,
about.
right.
They literally had, you know what the first opening act was? I kid you not. The first opening act was a group of kids. This is the time frame, folks. A group of kids were playing Guitar Hero to open the show. And so they had kids on drums because Guitar Hero had a drums, bass, guitar, and everything. Anyway, it was awful and horrendous. And it was funny because the sound went out. So it was right out of that South Park when it went.
So here's the best part, right? So I looked up Mick Mars's details. I knew he was up there because he was like in his 40s when Motley Crue hit it. Yeah. He is 70 years old this year.
Yep.
He was born in 1951, which means he's only a couple years shy of my dad.
The only guys, the rest of the band are close to my age. They're in their late 50s.
Yeah. Nikki Sixx, for example, is 62.
Yeah.
Vince Neil is 60. And for those of you who don't know, the difference between 60 and 70 is massive. It's another world.
When they started, I was in my 20s, and he was in his 30s. That's why I'm saying that. As a matter of fact, he was probably close. Yeah, he was in his mid to late 30s at that point. But anyway, I loved seeing them. But Vince could never sing. If anybody said that Vince ever sang, his voice is naturally that way.
Because they were really good on the record at making him get the performance out. Like Home Sweet Home, you really think Vince Neil could pull off Home Sweet Home live and make it sound good?
If you listen to Home Sweet Home, okay, this is coming from a vocalist, okay? If you listen to Home Sweet Home on the recording, you can tell that's him layered on top of a real vocalist. There's somebody really singing that song underneath that. There's a whole 2 or 3 part harmony under him of real vocalists singing that real part. He sounds like this. So I'm seeing them at, he comes out. The first time I saw them, I was like, how the hell does he do? Because he's like, blah, 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 feel good, blah, 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 and his voice is really like nasal and high, right?
Yeah, it always was.
Because, I heard, hey, we've got boots that smell, and then I heard him talking to the crowd. He was like, yeah, I want to thank everybody coming out. I was like, oh, I get it. It's because he always sounds like that. That's just his talking.
When you see him, like, what was funny about the video that we were watching in that Twitch stream was like, the video was like Motley Crue lyrics the way they actually sound, and they had subtitled it, and it was like, oh my God, I'll never unhear that song again.
So hilarious.
I was just like, how did they, like, he sounded like he was saying the things they said he was saying, and it wasn't because of the effect where you read it and it like immediately thinks it. No, it literally sounded that way. You could shut the thing off and hear different versions of the song if you wanted to.
Yeah,
and it's just because his voice is totally blown out of age.
It was never good.
And poor singing technique. He just basically ruined his ability to sing over the years. So, it was a Home Sweet Home, I think, is the one that was on their Home Sweet Home. Like, it was a single they released because they couldn't get their shit together to record a record, so they did Home Sweet Home. That was after Smoking in the Boys Room, which I think was also a single.
Yeah, and that's a cover,
right? And then they finally did another record, and they did a record in 19. I'm trying to remember. I think it was like 90s. It was like 87 was the next record that came out. Wait, these were all released on something. I'm just looking at singles for some reason because I remember. Yeah, no. So this was all on. No, this didn't all come out of there. No. I'm
That
looking at
was
something
actually a
wrong.
pretty tragic time. I mean, I don't want to sit and take Vince Neil's side on anything or not take his side. Vince Neil went through some shit. I mean, yes, some of it was his own doing, getting drunk and driving 100 and something miles an hour with who was the singer from
Okay. Home Sweet Home was on Theater of Pain. That's what I was trying to think of. And that came out in 85.
right.
But there was a period where so they kind of got criticized because they didn't put out a new record every year. Because in the 80s, that was the thing. Like, you did a record every year. And they started doing the every 2-year cycle. And it was like, I don't know what that was about. I think they were using a year to party in between, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Which they did that documentary that's on Netflix recently. And it's funny because didn't the band comment and say like, well, that's basically what it was like. Which is,
Yeah.
it's a very politically incorrect documentary. Let me just put it to you that way.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to watch it with the kids. or
Nope.
grandma.
Especially not that first
and if
scene.
you-
Holy
and if
hell.
you have a light heart, don't
Yeah.
watch it all.
Yeah.
But, and the guy who played Bolton in Game of Thrones, he plays Mick Mars, which was kind of an unlikely choice for an actor. But anyway,
Actually, I thought he was great at it, but yeah, it was an unlikely choice.
Yeah. Anyway, he got into an accident with the lead singer of some band, Go Tokyo or something.
Yeah, like his best friend. It was,
Yeah. And
because they were drunk and they went to go buy more booze.
Or did he kill him? I can't remember.
I think he killed him.
And then he had to live with that. And then didn't his kid die?
I don't know about that.
Child,
but
his child died young.
Possibly.
That's all in that documentary. I'll tell you, it's kind of a rockumentary. It's
not a documentary. It's like glamorized account of it, but you can tell that they were trying to get more on the realistic side of what it's like to be like a rock and roll star in the 80s. And what better band to look at than Motley Crue, because they embodied it more than any of their contemporaries. They were the bad guy band, okay?
Yeah.
Compared to like Poison was like nothing compared to, because Poison was like what they said, that Poison was the chick band was what everybody said, but like even Rat or Dokken, those bands had nothing on Motley Crue and their debauchery and behavior. It's amazing to me that all 4 members of Motley Crue are still alive, given some of the shit they were involved in. So that's, if you didn't know, like Motley Crue was heavy into drugs. Nikki Sixx was on a lot of heroin. He wrote a book about it. And they had a tumultuous career. And then, of course, Tommy Lee had his stint with heroin and other drugs and eventually got clean, not before making a real mess of his personal life by marrying Pamela Anderson and then having a sex tape leaked, which became the first viral video on the internet of all time. He actually probably is the most successful outside of that band, though, which is kind of funny. Like, he went off and did a solo career in the late 90s and sold a lot of records, playing guitar and singing, apparently, which is like...
Who's that?
Tommy Lee.
Tommy Lee, yeah. It was weird. Nikki Sixx did 6 a.m. and he has
but I don't think 6 a.m. was nearly as big as Tommy Lee's solo project was.
And then you had what's his name?
I don't remember Mick Mars doing anything though. And Vince Neil definitely didn't.
No, Vince Neil did the thing, but Nikki Sixx also did the photography. He had some weird photography he did that was borderline pornographic.
Well, they were at that point though where like, what else do you do? I mean, Guns N' Roses is the only other band that I think that reached that point, and it caused the disintegration of the band because they had the 3 biggest like post hair metal hits, record wise, back to back, and then they were sitting there like, how do we top this? And then they recorded the Spaghetti Incident, which was like their version of Garage Inc. And it was like, it's not a bad record, but but it's not what people wanted. And I think that's actually why that band disintegrated. I don't think it had anything to do with the infighting that was going on. I think it was because I don't think Slash wanted to make that record. I don't think Axl wanted to make that record. I think they were both sitting there thinking, what the hell do we do next? And neither of them had a cohesive musical direction. And I think Axl was like, well, we need to go down more of a grunge path because that's where music is going. And Slash is going, that's not rock and roll. We're not going to do that. We don't want to get into alternative and electronica and all that stuff, which you can hear all those influences coming out on Chinese Democracy, which a lot of those songs were written back then. So it's like, it just became a disaster. So like instead of that happening with Motley Crue, they went off and did these art projects, wrote books, did all these other things. I never even like growing up, it never registered with me that Motley Crue was like quote unquote broken up. Do you know what I mean? It was just, they weren't active. They weren't doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I never saw them as really broke up. Yeah. So I was right. Vince Neil's daughter died at 4 years old.
Yeah. That's what it was. Right.
I mean, she's not his only child, but.
Oh, here's Vince Neil's side project. In 2006, he opened his own tattoo parlor called Vince Neil Inc. I honestly I have zero problem with, a lot of people would look at it, he's fat now. I have zero problem with a weight problem. He just like can't sing anymore. And I don't think that has anything to do with his weight. I think it just has to do with like, he really probably couldn't sing to begin with. And he probably blew out his voice when he was young.
Well, a lot of those rockers, you look at, Brian Johnson, he blew out his voice real early. Anybody that's, the AC/DC.
That's why there was so much talking in AC/DC.
The stuff that came out after, to be honest with you, the last real good album by AC/DC is my opinion. You could cherry pick a song or two afterwards. Was For Those About to Rock. That was it. That was the end of it. Because after that, Brian Johnson's voice was blown, and it was kind of not really his fault, but more the fault of them allowing the producer Mutt Lange to push him to sing these higher and higher notes in the studio, and then the expectation, because the band wasn't into tuning down. They don't change or do anything different. And so any other band would have said, okay, let's tune down a full step or even a step and a half or some of that shit. You imagine trying to do You Shook Me All Night Long every freaking night for 2 years and then go back in the studio and record, the stuff that was on About to Rock then tour it.
The other problem is his voice. So like Bon Scott was unique. Okay. And he was emulating Bon Scott. And I don't think that's actually his real singing voice. And I think that's part of the reason why it got damaged was because he was singing higher than he should be. And like I said, I think Mutt Lange probably pushed them to like be the best sound that they could have been. And that required him to go beyond the physical ability of what he should have been doing without a coach. If he'd had a real vocal coach or an opera coach there, it probably would have been handled differently because he would have learned things about how to physically handle it. But their lifestyle wasn't going to allow that either. I mean, these guys drank a lot, and alcohol is the enemy for your voice.
Yeah, boy.
So that's why I'm like, I always looked at Bon Scott and I went, why didn't his voice blow out? But it was because and I think he had a little bit of that. He did a lot of talking in his stuff. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, but I think he did that to rest it because I think he knew like if he did that all night long, he was going to eventually lose his ability to sing. And I didn't realize he was that young when he died. He's only 33.
I know.
So it's pretty wild.
As a 50-something-year-old, and I look at my kids, I was just a kid.
Yeah, he's younger than I am now.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. It was a sad thing. It was a sad day for a lot of us as huge fans. You look at the singers that kept their voice. For the most part, the guy Brad Delp from Boston kept his voice right up to the point that he committed suicide. it's surprising, until relatively recently. What's his name from Aerosmith? Not Joe Perry, Steve Tyler
Steven
from
Tyler.
Aerosmith. He was able to belt that crap out. I mean, I'm not saying he was perfect night after night, but damn, he could do a great job. The woman from Heart, Ann Wilson, she does it night after night, still belting out those songs. And when asked about it, because they don't tune down, and when asked about it, she said, "We picked those keys on purpose." She goes, "I just any song that I would sing might be a hit. And if I had to sing it night after night after night, was I going to be able to hit those notes night after night after night?" I mean, she's lost a little bit of that high end, but for God's sake, she's in her late 60s, early 70s. She's got to be in her mid to late 60s, and still able to do it. You know who else? Amazing. I just heard him sing again recently, and I was like, you are shitting me that he can still do it. Robert Plant.
Yeah, no, he hasn't lost anything because he basically lives a clean lifestyle. I mean, he's completely changed person and doesn't really indulge himself anymore. I don't even think he drinks.
I don't think so either.
And he started that a long time ago, and he is like, of all of the people from 70s rock, if you want to talk about somebody who has artistic integrity, like he's probably it. There ain't many others. Jeff Beck falls in that group, but they've worked together, right? But Robert Plant still has it. If you call him up, he's like, "Yeah, I'm getting old. I feel like we should do another Led Zeppelin thing." I don't think he would have any problem doing it. He would just be like, "All right, show up to the gig and get it done."
I think if any band could pull that off, it would be Led Zeppelin. Because Jimmy Page, that he has
his health is pretty good too, but that's because he was sacrificing all the stuff when he he's gonna live to be like 140 because of all the debauchery and stuff that he's participated in as a part of Aleister Crowley's teachings. Wow.
I mean,
I'm going to hell.
Same here. If you look at those guys, that's a band that could just pull it together.
Well, except for John Bonham, he's kind of dead. So but Jason's always around,
You know who else lived a clean living and did it? Peter Frampton. He turned it around.
Yeah, but let's be clear. When Led Zeppelin was in the 70s and 80s, they were not clean in any way.
They made Motley Crue go, all right, we got to try to one-up these guys.
Yeah, I think they were like the blueprint for like Motley Crue to be like, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. So let's not act like those guys were clean back then.
No, but they definitely, and by clean, we also mean like their behavior towards other people, specifically women. I definitely see that like today's bands don't behave those ways in general. There's still your Ryan Adams out there, but like for the most part, it's a different environment. I think Kurt Cobain was really one of the last members of a generation that required drugs in order to make their art. And when I say required drugs, I mean like to function. And there are other people in that generation, obviously, that did as well. But like, it's not as common anymore to like have people that rely on drugs as a part of their like living strategy in music. I think we still definitely have people that are using Peruvian marching powder and that kind of thing. But I think that's largely out of fashion. Well, you know what that's a reference to, right? Because they would have to tour all the time, and like it was so strenuous that they did cocaine to stay awake and stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they called it Peruvian marching powder, which is hilarious to me. But
I just find that hilarious. That's the first time I ever heard it. They called that. So there you go.
That was from Peter Grant's book, which is he's the guy that was Led Zeppelin's manager, and he talked about same thing as Black Sabbath. When they would tour, they actually had someone that would travel on a plane, commercial jet, to where they were at carrying a briefcase filled with cocaine. And it was separate from the band. Yeah.
I was rereading parts of this.
Yeah, because we were having
And-
a conversation about a photograph that surfaced on Wampler's
Yeah,
page.
and I never said it was fake. I said it was suspect.
It's,
because
yeah,
of
it's
the
definitely
things that-
suspect, but I
I didn't say it was fake. I didn't think it was fake.
yeah, I
I
think
think it's real.
I think the scholars on that one will be debating for a while because so here's the deal. David Bowie's in a picture with Stevie Ray Vaughan, and we think it was from 1989. And of course,
it was
had to be.
likely from 1989 because that was a certain tour.
yeah, it was
that
Terry
he did
Bozzio
with-
and Jeff Beck were also in the picture.
Yeah, and they're
And
on
Bonnie
that
Raitt
tour.
and Bonnie
Yep,
Raitt
and
actually did
she
a couple
was-
dates with him on that tour. So it's more than likely the case, but it was weird.
It all made sense.
It was weird because Bowie was there, and everybody's kind of like him and Bowie were on speaking terms. And
Yeah.
then, like, I kind of pointed out because I read an interview with somebody who was allegedly close to Bowie at some point, and basically said like, "No, we don't want to work together ever again, but we have an understanding, and we've come to terms with what happened, and like we're both cool with it now." And the conversation was like framed like, well, maybe he called me as part of his 12 steps program. Kind of like that's the way I read it was like calling to make amends for maybe his behavior when they were working together, because that would have been probably at the height of Stevie Ray's drug problems. And then by 1989, I think he was clean. So
yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. So I was about to talk about that part, but somewhere I had read that Bowie went to his grave regretting the fact that he and Stevie Ray never really buried the hatchet.
he
But anyway,
never really commented on it. Like people would ask him the question, and he would just kind of brush it off like that's not something we need to talk about. And I think it was more or less like, I think when Stevie Ray was alive, I think it was kind of like, well, let Stevie Ray tell that story. But then after Stevie Ray dies, it's like, you know what? Out of respect, I'm just not going to say anything. You know what I mean?
And I have a real life friend who was close friends with Bowie, and they talked about different things. But anyway, so in here, this is a great book, by the way. If you guys ever think of getting it, it's called Texas Flood. It's written by Alan Paul and Andy Aladort, two people who knew a lot, and it's in. If you read it, it's actually just a bunch of quotes from interviews. So it's not like Alan and Andy are just making shit up.
It's accounts from people that saw things. But what you got to remember is just like with any narrative,
Right.
Things can be Mandela affected till you're blue in the face. Right. And
that's right.
One of the first things you learn as an English major is narratology, which is this idea that like the narrator can be lying. And in journalism, like that's a huge thing that like you still report it as though it's fact because you have no way of knowing otherwise, but it has to do with your sourcing and just something to keep in mind. Yeah. That's why I take all those biographies with a pinch of salt. I don't care who writes them.
I'm going to read this. This is a little quote from it. This is Hodges. It was his like stage manager or something. Stage manager, something. Tour manager, maybe. The things we did to keep Stevie clean were going to happen regardless, but it was easier to have at least 3 people in the program. We just didn't need to have booze around. And here's what that Peruvian marching power is what reminded me of this. And regardless of what they might call themselves, we didn't need people whose first or second jobs were selling drugs. They could be called local crew, the photographer you see at every show, or the guy you didn't know what he does, but he keeps popping up. All those people went away. You're not always sure where the danger lurks, but when we weren't buying, the whole scene changed. So that was part of one of the things. And Bonnie Raitt was talking earlier about it. He was probably the most fierce of the bluesmen I've ever heard. He had a furnace in his heart and was the epitome. She was going through the same thing at the time, by the way.
Yeah.
She was the epitome of all the dark and sexy, brooding and passionate. All that is dark and sexy and brooding and passionate. The most extreme emotions of the blues and of life in every breath he took. And to find out that he could maintain this while sober was such a revelation. If anything, he was covering more emotions. He was playing as if his life depended on it and he needed it. And it is so sad to find out this is only a year and a half before he passed away.
Yeah.
That he was clean. And it's just...
Let's talk for a minute. I want to start a campaign, and I'm hoping that maybe some show listeners will start this process up for me. But there was a tour, the Fire and the Fury tour, with Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray Vaughan. They flipped a coin every night to see who would go on stage first. And then they would go out and they would play, and then they would jam out some tunes at the end, and they would always usually end with like It's Going Down or something like that. Yeah, Freddie King. And that tour, there are recordings of it. Not audio recordings, video recordings of it. And for whatever reason, there is a rights debacle, and it has never been released. That needs to end. This needs to be available to people. And I would prefer to see it available to people before Jeff Beck goes. Because when that happens, somebody's going to be like, you know what, let's bury the hatchet. We got a lot of money to make here. But the reality is, like, we need to see him in his prime. Like, we need to see when he's at his best. There are some other video recorded performances, like the second Montreux Jazz Festival, where he's totally sober and kicking ass. And I think the second Austin City Limits performance, he's also totally sober and kicking ass. Yep,
they talk about that in here.
And like El Mocambo, he's still, you can tell he's on drugs. Like, he's sweating and real bad, and like, but the El Mocambo is the one that I first saw, and that changed my life. Because I'd never seen anybody that had been like that, so good at guitar and so good at their craft, not just guitar, but like song arranging, and just like that passionate about what they were doing, that they could do that and emote that way, that it literally changed my life. It made me want to play guitar that much more. And
I think I have that on DVD or something.
Yeah, that's how I got it first. And like the tone on that, man, like, you want to chase a Strat tone, get the El Mocambo and chase that. Good luck. But hats off to you, but good luck. If you find it, let me know, because I'd be interested. But God, what an amazing player, man! What an amazing player. And people for. I am so I'm so sick and tired of this generation for acting like he was not something special. My generation and people after me act like that guy wasn't something special.
He was.
Seriously, shut up. No one cares. No, the rest of the world doesn't care. You go to Japan, you talk to people, they're going to know who he is. Like, what are you on? You're going to try and tell me that, like, Ryan Adams is better was better than Stevie Ray Vaughan or some contemporary guy like that? What kind of crack are you smoking? I don't even think somebody like Joe Bonamassa, as good as he is, which, by the way, he's much better than people give him credit for, too. Watch some of the footage before he was wearing suits. That was what I was telling people the other day. He was much better when he wasn't wearing suits. No, watch some of the footage from like the early days, and then watch. He has a jam band that he does once in a while, Rock Candy Funk Party.
Yep.
Watch that, and then you'll realize how damn good he actually is. And just understand, I don't think Joe Bonamassa would ever say, like, Stevie Ray Vaughan wasn't as good as he was cracked up to be. Eric Johnson wouldn't say Stevie Ray Vaughan wasn't as good as he was cracked up to be. I guarantee you that. They were good friends.
Let me tell you something. I saw an interview with Bonamassa, and he talked about the change to the suits and the glasses. And there's an actual good reason that he went to the suits and the glasses. So I'm
just saying, like, when that happened,
National Hall of Fame.
When that happened, it was almost like he lost some of the fury and lost some of the rock side and went way more blues, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, I got a lot of blues cats I like, but it was just like he was doing the Led Zeppelin thing before, and then all of a sudden he goes over to the blues side, and it's like it coincided with when he changed outfits.
It was
kind of weird.
There was also, there was some other stuff that had to happen. But that said, he doesn't do the suit still when he does the jam, and he doesn't do this because that's what he wants to portray. Is he's like, all right, now I'm a blues guy, and that's the blues,
Yeah.
and I want it to be the blues. And when I'm the rock guy, and what's the band he did with the guy with the bass
Black
player
Country
from
Communion.
Black Country Communion.
That's the Led Zeppelin band.
That's the stuff to check out. So before we go, I just wanted to show you this. I had to pull this out
Yeah.
because I was doing a song from this, and it was really,
You took a
what's
minute when
sad?
you looked at it. Is that Iommi's still
Yeah.
around? Iommi had cancer and lived twice.
Yeah, this is extremely sad, and this is from 2010, and look at how good he looked.
Yeah. Worth mentioning. Black Country Communion is going to have another record too.
Yeah,
So they're not done.
he
They're
was
not
talking
done.
about that.
They're not done.
They're
They're
not
saying
done.
2022.
Yeah.
They were done because like their schedules weren't coinciding, and I guess Glenn Hughes was like,
Well, yeah,
I need something to do. I can't
Yeah.
wait on you. And
Yep.
which those records sold really well. So it's like, Glenn, just take your money and shut up. Like a couple of years from now, it'll be a thing again. I might actually get tickets to go see that.
Yeah,
if they
I
tour that.
definitely will. If they come out this way, I'll be definitely out to see it. But yeah.
I've had my hate moments with Bonamassa and his playing and stuff, but I think he just I don't know. I always felt he was like kind of pretentious about it, and now I was like, I don't feel that way at all. I think it's just my exposure to some of the other stuff coming through and like knowing what his early career was like. I don't feel pretentious about it at all, and I think it's sort of tongue in cheek with him anyway. Because he's like, I can't believe people actually, like think that this is
That's
good.
exactly what he says. He says, I can't believe people keep coming out.
Yeah. What does he
goes,
say? They keep coming out to see an old guy play really overplay against blues
Really
changes.
Yeah, exactly. Really old songs. He goes, they keep coming out to see this kid play, these really old songs. And he's like, oh, I'll keep doing it as long as people keep doing it. And, I'll say this before we end. One thing you can say about Bonamassa is he shares. He's been giving to musicians. He's been doing a lot of stuff for musicians. He just donated.
Maybe you can donate me a 59. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, he just I guess you put it on semi-permanent loan. He put a 52 Les Paul in the Musicians Hall of Fame for that. He really cares about the thing. If you watch live from Nerdville, and you catch some of those, he's an interesting cat to say the least. And he has a way of, he's like me. He's a typical New Yorker. I mean, let's face it. That's the thing. And being from New York, I kind of get it.
He's a kid at heart.
Right.
He
and
remembers
he never had to grow up.
He remembers what it's like seeing the poster of the Ferrari on the wall, and now he owns them. Instead of a Ferrari for him, it was Les Paul's,
I listened to him talk about that first nice guitar he got. And so his dad went out and bought him a Strat, which was 2 weeks of the entire household income.
Oh, no, he was rich. He was rich, Jim.
Oh, yeah,
haven't you heard that story?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, because they owned a music store. They must have been rich, right? What the fuck are people on?
Yeah, obviously they've never owned a music store. He was poor, and his dad bought him that guitar, and he said, hide it from your mom. And he said he had to hide that for months. And they asked him in the interview, how'd you play it? And he said, I had to hide it underneath my bed, and I knew what time my mom would get home from work. So I would rush home from school, and I would play guitar until a couple minutes, and I'd hear the car coming up the driveway, and I hit it. And finally one day Dad said, just play it. I guess she found out, or he told her. And the beauty of that is how people can relate. He played the cheap guitars. He did the whole thing, and he strived to do better and do better.
Fortunately, they did actually come into money later, and they did have a pretty successful music store. But like those early years are pretty rough for him. He tells some stories that are like, really, and it hit just him like having relationships with like B.B. King and later Danny Gatton and people like that. It's just wild because they just happened to happen because of his association with his dad. We can't all get that lucky. You know what I mean? Like,
no. And the story of writing a letter to Eric Clapton, asking him to come play a song at the, at the Royal Albert Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he said that really launched him. I mean, there's so many things in his thing. Obviously, being with B.B. King made him famous, but took him to the stratospheric level was doing the Royal Albert Hall and then saying, "Hey, I'm doing this because I saw you do it." And you know what? What's funny is he jokes about it. He says, "Yeah, they never asked me back."
Yeah. I didn't think much of the Royal Albert Hall performance, but I understand why, and I understand why it's significant. Because I watched that several times now. But anyway,
Yep, me too.
All right. I've been David.
I've been Jim.
And tonight we've been Practical Guitarists.
Cue the music.
Enjoy yourselves.